family has asked us to announce that following this service, interment will take place immediately at Emmanuel Memorial Park, part of Hillcrest Cemetery, after which they will be returning to Mark and Marcia's home, 5678 Falkirk Road in Lyndhurst. They will be receiving Shiva calls until 5 p.m. today, tomorrow, Saturday evening, from 7 to 9 p.m., and Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. Donations in Harvey's memory are suggested to the Betty and Harvey Krantz Tuition Fund at Temple Emmanuel.
Shiviti Adonai, lenegdit amid, mimini balemot. Shiviti Adonai, lenegdit amid, mimini balemot. Lachen samach libi, vayangel kevodi, af besari, tishkol lavetach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam dayan hamet. Praised are you, Adonai our God, the righteous judge. As the prophet Job teaches us, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, but now taken away, and still we praise God's name. Harvey Herzl ben Baruch, son of Tilly and Barney, is missed and mourned by his children, Rhonda, Marcia and Mark, Debbie and Brian, by his grandchildren, Michael, Carly, Sydney, Lindsay, and Benjamin, by his nieces and nephews, and his many, many friends. He was preceded in death by his parents, by his dear wife, Betty, and by his sister and brothers, Selma, Sanford, and Jerry. Mizmor David, Adonai ro'i lo echzar. God is our shepherd, we shall not want. God causes us to lie down in green pastures. God leads us beside still waters. God restores our soul and guides us in the right paths for the sake of the divine name. Even when, as at this moment, we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no harm. You, God, are with us. Your rod and staff comfort us. You prepare a table before us, even in the presence of our enemies. You anoint our heads with oil, and our cup runneth over. Ach tov v'chesed yirdafuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all of the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Ben Sira writes, we are all destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived and all who ever will be. Cry for the dead, do not hide your grief or restrain your mourning. But remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace. Be consoled when the soul departs. Let us not seek to understand what is too difficult for us, nor search for what is hidden, nor be preoccupied with what is beyond us, for we have already been shown far more than we can understand. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for but a short time, but Harvey's name and reputation will live on forever. Harvey will be remembered by his grandson Michael, and by Rhonda and Brian, his daughter and son.
Thanks everyone for coming. Really means a lot. I'm Michael Mayer. I'm Harvey's grandson. And words can't even begin to describe how saddened I am right now, standing in front of all of you, trying to remember positives in such a negative time after my grandfather had passed. But in reality, it's what my grandfather would have wanted. When I was young, making my way through school, I was having a difficult time, and I debated giving up. And it wasn't until my grandfather gave me the single greatest piece of advice that anyone's ever given to me in my entire life. He told me, stay positive. Find the positives that you can in any given situation. And I've taken that with me for the last 10 to 15 years. And now I'm working in national sports radio at Fox Sports Radio in Los Angeles. So it's obviously paid off pretty well. I wouldn't have made it to this point in my life without those two simple words. And that is the kind of idea that we're all here for. We're trying to remember the positives. Speaking about the positives about one of the greatest men that I've ever known. I am Harvey's grandson, but Papa was more than just a grandfather to me. He was like a second dad. I would always look forward to talking to him on the phone or whenever he visited. He had just this awesome energy surrounding him and was always in just this great frame of mind, never negative, never frowning at anything. He would always ask me about work and school or whatever was going on in my life at that point. And sometimes we would hit the Cleveland sports topics. This was obviously before the Cavs won and changed the fortunes of Cleveland. But my grandfather was just such a wonderful and kind person to everyone he came in contact with. And you could see that translate into his 4 children, my aunts Debbie and Marcia, my uncle Brian. But most importantly, you can see it in my mother, Miranda. And I can honestly say my mother is one of the most wonderful people on this planet Earth, and I can see where it all came from, my grandfather. I'm so unbelievably sad right now, but also unbelievably grateful. My grandfather gave me so much in 28 years of life that helped me grow into the man that I am today. He's a true hero to me and one of the most inspirational people I've had in my entire life. If you want one word to describe Harvey Krantz, it's legend. The man raised 4 amazing children and still found a way to treat each one of his grandchildren as if they were one of his own kids. If you came into contact with Harvey Krantz at any point in your life, you knew exactly what made him special. I'll never forget all the things that he helped me through, from the struggles of me when I was a teenager to the days of me now producing live radio for the entire country, which has been my dream job since I was about 5 years old. Without my grandfather, I'm not the man that you see in front of you today. Rest in peace, Papa. You were one of a kind.
Military honors were, we didn't know that until today, and I'll tell you, I thought that my father won the Korean War because that's what he told us, and he was honorably discharged before the war started. I learned much later. The silver lining of losing my mom was getting to know my dad as his own person. Up until then, they were mom and dad. He had the ability, as Michael said, to be generally positive about life, and he encouraged us to do the same. He once told me that I could never set my goals too high, that I could always do better, and that's how he lived. He was a great salesman, and then he enjoyed 27 years of active retirement. When he first moved to Florida, he played tennis 3 days a week, he played golf 3 days a week, and then, like God, he rested on the 7th day. In the spirit of being the best that he could be, he claimed that he was the hottest man in Florida. Women went for him for 3 reasons. He was financially stable, he had most of his own teeth, and best of all, he drove at night. We were what mattered most to Dad. His email address and most of his passwords included the number 4, and that was for us. I think he would be thrilled at how we pulled together over the last couple months. We are the greatest sibling team of all time. We each had our role in getting Dad the care that he needed, and we got the job done and kept each other somewhat sane, and amazingly often with laughter, which is a Krantz thing. What he really liked was when he understood what we did for a living, as long as it was sales. He taught us all of his sales skills, his way of organizing prospects and knowing customers. I made him my director of sales when I worked a trade show in Boca Raton. We were selling to senior citizens. Although he complained about having to be around all of those old people, he pulled people to the table and told them proudly that they would never get any better training anywhere. He also loved the sun. A typical visit once he moved to Florida included several beaches, sometimes 3 beaches in a day, and at least one pool where he'd just lay in the sun. When we moved him to Cleveland, we kept reminding him that the key to happiness was family and not weather. He wouldn't have been happy otherwise. His grandchildren were also a source of great happiness for him. He was so proud to be with them as they celebrated becoming bar and bat mitzvah, their graduations, their theater performances. He loved visiting with them, and especially those who lived in the sun, and keeping up with their lives. It's said that actions speak louder than words. The Krantzes are not a particularly demonstrative bunch. We knew that Dad loved us, and he knew we loved him. We hugged, we signed our cards with love. We communicated often in the bizarro way that Krantz do. Dad would call me to see where Marcia was. Debbie would call Dad to see where Brian was. It's just the way we communicate. But we're not the family that ends our phone conversations with, "Love you." Dad told me that Mom told him she loved him just before she died. He knew that, but the words were new to him. Kind of like the scene from Fiddler on the Roof, where Golda says, "Do you love me?" "Do I what?" That was how they lived. When he started dating, he told me he had a difficult time finding someone because no one was as beautiful as my mother. I'm fairly certain he never said that to her. So many of you have asked how you could be helpful to us during these difficult times. Here's what I think would be helpful, and I'm borrowing from my friend Bruce when he lost his wife Audrey. Today, I'd like you to tell the person who you care about most how much they matter to you. And to quote a preschool teacher, use your words. I won't be able to tell my dad how much I love him tonight, and I hope that when he meets with my mom, that he'll tell her how beautiful she was and how much the 4 of us loved him. Thank you for being here.
I'm Brian, the dutiful son. I have some notes here, but they're going to echo a lot of what you've heard. But I'd like to tell you a few things from my perspective about my dad that some of you may already know, others now might get a chance to learn. I love my dad, and he liked things short and sweet, so I'm going to keep my thoughts very brief for you. Here goes. My dad taught me many things over my lifetime, and I could give hundreds of examples of times I could think what my dad would be thinking in a particular situation, and I would just ask myself, what would Harvey do? But I'll just sum up some of his qualities to just some of the highlights. My dad taught me the value of working hard. I recall him helping me to obtain one of my very first jobs as a newspaper delivery carrier. He encouraged me to start the job and to keep it going. I would have been about 11 or 12 years old at the time. He encouraged me to enter their various contests, and to become the best. So when they had contests to add like the most subscribers to a different route, guess who won the prizes? Me. And he was very proud that I was able to do that. And I was able to do that because of everything that I learned from him. My dad taught me the value of how to work with people, how to present myself, and how to sell myself. The ideas that he instilled in me taught me how to understand people and how to persuade them to buy into whatever it was that I was representing. From that, I went on to tremendous success from all of those learnings in a home improvement business, in the lending industry, and more recently, new jobs that I've discovered in other industries. My success is directly attributed to my dad instilling in me perseverance, positive mental attitude, and overcoming whatever speed bumps get in my way. I would say that those three things are probably the greatest things he ever taught me over the years. And they're so important to me that they're worth repeating. Perseverance, positive mental attitude, and overcoming speed bumps. You've heard before, his nature was not that he always would tell you directly that he was proud of you or happy that he even liked what you were doing. But he would tell others. And I know this because I would hear it from others. They would say, "Your dad said you're doing so well. He's very, very proud of you." And I heard that on many occasions. Now I can only hope that I can teach these important thoughts and ways to my next generation.
At times like these, we look for help from many places. You've heard how the family has been grateful for the help that you have given them. But I think another place where we can seek help is from God.
Esainai el hearim me'ain yavo esri Esainai el hearim me'ain yavo esri Esri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz Esri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz Esainai el he'arim me'ain yavo Esri Esainai el he'arim me'ain yavo Esri.
Harvey was with us for 87 years. Was a beloved son, brother, husband, father, and grandfather. He was born and raised here in Cleveland at 105th and Kinsman. His father, Barney, actually sold insurance as well. His mother, Tilly, had a deli. He graduated from Glenville High School, as you saw, served in the Air Force, and then went to what he called MacArthur U, The MacArthur family, of course, owned Bankers Life and Casualty. We'll come back to that in a moment. As you heard, he loved his tennis and his golf. He also loved his happy hour, the Bloody Marys. He liked to play blackjack and was playing blackjack with Brian Oman until the end. And he loved to see the number of heads around the family dinner table growing. He was, as you know, a star salesman. For a short time, he opened and ran the Mutual of Omaha office in Warren. He was the kind of salesman who used to go around with what by today's standards is a huge amount of equipment to show a video. The video might feature William Bendix or Paul Harvey, who at the end would say, "Here's my friend Harvey Krantz," and he would then go about selling the insurance. He developed his relationship with his customers and his clients. When it was time to deliver a benefits check, he would deliver it in person and then make friends with the family's next generation. The company had MacArthur's March, and he would always win trips and prizes, a musket, a bazooka, all kinds of stuff. He encouraged others to sell. If someone was out of work, he would say, "Why don't you come sell insurance? They'll give you a draw." And it was an exemplar and actually was used to train others as how to sell, teach them the importance of showing up for the appointment on time. Take your sunglasses off before the potential customer opens the door. He was a negotiator. He loved a good bargain, although the bargains didn't always work out. One example was a cut rate mover that they hired one time, and, well, that stuff finally got delivered. He became a staunch conservative later in life, but even if his children did not share his political opinions, he stood up for them and for anyone else, even though they didn't agree with him. Even in these last few weeks, you could still get a rise out of him by telling him that Hillary Clinton actually got elected. Harvey and Betty met when Betty was 18 years old. There's a couple of different stories. There's one version that they were fixed up by her brother, one that he was dating, that Betty was dating Harvey's brother Jerry, one by her girlfriends. Doesn't matter. Her parents always said that they felt that their daughter was safe with Harvey, although Betty did tell us in her lifetime that he kind of couldn't keep his hands off. But in their 51 years of marriage, they became each brothers and were really each other's best friends. They were like bookends. They had one thought between them. They had lots of friends. They would go out dancing on Saturday nights, and you could just see how comfortable and at ease they were with each other. They joined our congregation, Temple Emmanuel, in 1966. Were active in the couples club. They were always involved in organizing a show or a dance. And they literally traveled together through life. They said they wanted 3 or 5 children. So they had 3 daughters, and then Brian and quit at 4. You heard from Rhonda. She says that our dad was her activities manager, or the activities manager for the children. Helped them sledding, swimming, teaching them to drive. He wanted his children to get into sports. Not a great success. Some. Because he never went to college, it was so important for him that they went to college. One time, Rhonda was taking 6 courses. She had registered for a 7th that she had dropped out of. Withdrawn, as we say in polite language. And he looked at her transcript and was very proud of the 6 A's, but complained bitterly, saying he didn't want to see any W's on her record. To Marcia, he taught the discipline of selling, how he kept his prospects on cards, how he made his appointments, how if they were on vacation, he would say, "No one's paying me today," because he worked solely on commission. For Debbie, the last months, maybe she was trying to give subtle signals to teach her a little blackjack. And you heard from Brian how his father taught him so very much. He truly embraced the role of grandfather. He remembered everything that all of his grandchildren were doing, would joke with them about how they grew up. He was, as you heard, their strongest supporter, taking them shopping, and he would even cook for his grandchildren. And we heard how in Florida he was so active. Harvey was an uncomplicated guy. He diligently went along with the program. He didn't let himself get distracted by things that were unimportant. He would just let things roll off his back, and he never complained or never got mired in stress. He would simply say, "What's the big deal?" And the most important thing was PMA, positive mental attitude. May his soul now rest in peace, and may his memory continue to be a blessing to all of us who had the privilege of knowing him. Please rise. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of Harvey Krantz, son of Barney and Tilly, he has now gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, may he find perfect peace in your sheltering embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May he now rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated.